Hey guys, I'm Elizabeth McCravey, a website designer and business coach for entrepreneurs and your host for the Breakthrough Brand podcast, the show that's all about pulling back the curtain on how to actually build a successful business. I don't skim the surface around here. If you want a deep dive into the nitty-gritty details of what it takes to run a successful business and stand out in a crowd, you're in the right place. After creating a multiple six-figure-a-year website design business in my 20s, I'm ready to share everything I've learned and everything I'm still learning because I believe the keys to building a thriving business should never be a secret. Here you'll find episodes that are actionable, direct, and fun, like friends chatting business over coffee and a fresh, honest take on the reality of being an entrepreneur. If you're ready to master online marketing, branding, website design, mindset, and business strategy, then this is the podcast for you. It's time to build your breakthrough brand. Let's do this. Welcome back to the Breakthrough Brand podcast. Let's talk about hiring and growing your team. I'm really excited about this episode. This is actually one of my personal favorite topics because team building has been so huge for me in my own business. And I'm excited to bring you this guest expert who is like, this is her thing, to really dive in to this with me. So today I'm chatting with Sabatini Ferdinand, Saba for short, and she's from the business, the In Demand VA, which I absolutely love her business name. We talked about that a little bit in the episode, but she's walking us through finding a VA and hiring a VA in your business. So we'll discuss what traits to look for in a virtual assistant, what tasks they can help you with, how to take steps towards hiring. And if you're like, what is a virtual assistant? What is a VA? I'm not really sure. We talk about that some as well. And towards the end, we explore some different topics too. We talk about world traveling, which is really fun. She has a lot of experience with remote work lifestyle and has some great tips for like traveling light and all kinds of like random stuff. Like that's a really fun piece of the conversation. And Saba and I also talk about her experience with M-Shop, which is really fun. And I also want to say, stay tuned till the very end, like the very end when I'm like literally thanking Saba for being here and like we're about to like hang up, so to speak, because she shares something really cool. And I was shocked and thought it was just so fun. And I want to let her say it and like you just hear it from her when we get there. But I will give a little hint to it, like to summarize it. She told me that for her 2021 vision board, she had put being on my podcast as one of like the 10 podcasts that she wanted to be a guest on. Like I'd literally put this on a vision board. I had zero idea. Like I had no idea she had even really knew about my podcast. I knew she knew who I was because we both had followed each other on Instagram for a while, but I never would have guessed that. And so when I reached out to her to be a guest, like the stars really did just align for us there, which I think is just so super cool that that was something she had thought about as she ended 2020 and came into 2021. So anyway, I thought that was a really cool little tidbit there. So be sure to listen all the way to the end to hear us talk about that. And without further ado, I will play this interview, but I really just want to say, I hope this episode helps you feel confident in taking the next steps towards hiring in your company, whether that's hiring a virtual assistant or a local assistant or any kind of help for you as a business owner, because that's so important. When we talk about scaling our business long-term, hiring help is going to be such a huge piece of that. So without further ado, here is my conversation with Saba. Okay, we've been chatting now for a little while, and this is so fun. I'm really excited to interview you. Welcome to the podcast, Saba.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Yes, and this so the topic we're talking about is a really important one, a fun one you are such an expert on, but like hiring virtual assistants, even being a virtual assistant and building up like that type of business. But to tell everyone, like give context to who you are and all that, I'd love for you to tell who you are, what you do, and who you serve in your business.
So my name is Saba, as you'll see it on Instagram, but my full name is Sabatini. And that's always a topic of discussion as into why I go by one or the other, but it's just a shorter way of saying my name. And so Saba, the In Demand VA on Instagram. And what I do is I help female business owners, and not female business owners by choice. That's just all that has attracted me. And so all of my clients are female business owners, and I help them operate their back end of their business. And so that could be admin, that could be marketing, that could be just about anything. And so me and my team, my two VAs and my OBM and myself, help these business owners run their online businesses. And so I want to say that my audience is mostly female business owners. But there have been males there, but that's just not their niche, I guess, in a sense.
Yeah.
And people are like, do men not need virtual assistants? And I'm like, they do, but it's not as like prominent, not as lucrative with the business owners being male rather than female in this online space. And so that's what I do with my team.
Yeah, you're similar to me with like the lack of men buying, but not like trying to make it that way.
Yeah,
It's just
people
that's
are
what
like,
happens.
so you don't have any male students? And I'm like, I mean, I have one, but like, I wish I had
Yeah.
more,
It's
but
funny. I heard you say that because you have a course right now as
yeah,
well. And so you have one male in the course then.
I have one
I
male.
have one male in my course right now too. Just one. I'm like, come on, guys. More of you
Yeah,
can do it.
I'm like, please pave the way.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. And so the in-demand VA, which I love the name of that, by the way. So like clear as to what it is.
And it's
Um,
funny that you say that because that wasn't my original name. My original name was My Tasteful Ventures because I came from being a travel food blogger. And so for a long time, once I got into being a VA, I never thought of changing my name. It was never on the books for me. But I was talking with a friend and they just gave me the name and they were like, at this point I had 8 clients. So I became like this VA that didn't know much. And all of a sudden just started marketing myself, just going with the flow and became booked out. And so my friend is like, you're like in demand now. And I'm like, I mean, yeah. And this is like 11 p.m., but I'm still, sticking with my name, My Tasteful Ventures. I'm not changing my name. That's my name. I don't want people to think travel is gone. That's my name. That's my name, and I'm like, got off the phone and I'm like, I'm in demand, like I am in demand. And that's where the name came from. And so right away, I looked it up on GoDaddy to see if it was available, the In-Demand VA, and I bought it. And I'm like, you know what? I changed my Instagram handle that night too. And I announced it that this is the new name, and it fit so well in that moment. Before then, I'm like, no, I'm not changing my name, but then it fit. And so now that's where that name came from, is that because I had so many clients as a beginner, I'm like, wow, I want to build a business where I can teach other VAs how to become in demand, just as I did.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, yeah, the business name changing thing is such a real decision struggle. I've been there so many times now. Yeah, let's talk about that for a minute though, because I think it's really cool of your journey, like you said, of like you started out travel blogging to now. I mean, you do a variety of things, but one of them being teaching people how to become VAs and then helping people find VAs for their business, which is what we'll be talking a lot about. But what was that journey like in a summary, I guess, so to speak, of you being a travel blogger to now?
So to sum it up, I worked for a bigger brand hotel, Marriott International Hotels. And so I was able to use my free time when I wasn't at work to travel. And so I've always been a traveler. I traveled when I was a kid. And then I'm just like, I kind of like this thing. I'm going to continue doing it. And then COVID happened. And so traveling was gone. And for someone who only knew work and travel, I was in like a hard space because I'm like, now my job laid us off for 9 months and now I don't have a job and I also cannot travel. So what is there for me to do? So I was left with nothing. And so I was introduced to being a VA by a friend, and a friend who's actually in my course.
Oh, that's awesome.
And she introduced me to it and I'm like, I'm not really feeling it. And I think it's because my mind wasn't there because I was really sad that I couldn't work and I couldn't do what I enjoyed, which was traveling. And so then I kind of like had to go after myself and, like there's nothing else for you to do. So you might as well give this thing a try. And I remember it was May 1st of 2020. I took a gift card that was given to me and I bought this VA course, which is a really big VA course that's out there. And I started doing it and I'm like, you know what? I wasn't feeling it in the beginning, but I'm like, I'm going to give it a try because maybe if I can get this remote job, I can get back to traveling when that opens up and now I can work and go, not have to work and come back from, from vacation and stuff like that. So that's where that happened. And then I stopped doing my course in the middle of it because I'm like, I don't really care for this course, like it's not, I was still piecing things together. And so I'm like, I knew quite a bit about social media. That's where I was really prominent with my travel blogging. And so I'm like, I'm going to market that I'm learning this new thing, this new VA thing. I'm going to market it. I got into a Pinterest course and I'm like, I'm going to market that I'm doing this Pinterest course, and people started reaching out.
Love that.
And that's how it took off. And so now, not only do I not work for that company anymore, I was able to quit my job before the 9 months, of being laid off, I was able to quit. And then I have been able to be a VA while I was on sort of vacation. Now I did exactly what I was like left to do because there was no other choice.
I've heard you talk about this other times, but like of making the most of like what was a difficult situation there. That's so cool. And I love seeing how your business is now. Okay. For one other question, let's kind of dive into like the VA stuff. So I was saying the in-demand VA is so clear, but for someone who's like, what is a VA? Like, what does that even mean? Can you tell like what a VA is and what a VA isn't too? So that for people who like do know what it is, for kind of like, what is it? What is it not?
And so for one, very first thing right off the bat, because these get mixed up all the time, is that a VA, a virtual assistant, is not a social media manager. And those get mixed up all the time because some VAs know how to do and create content, right? But that does not qualify them as a social media manager because they don't do the same things. So just wanted to get that out the way. Now, back to the board, a VA is exactly what it sounds like. They are a virtual assistant to your business, whether it was an in-person product business or a digital product business. A VA can help you with a variety of things. They could help you create graphics for your social media, right? But are they someone that you would have edit your podcast? They could edit your podcast if they knew how. They could edit your YouTube videos. They could answer your emails. They could reach out to brands on behalf of you if you want them to. So a VA really could do a lot of different things. It depends on what they specialize in. Most VAs are going to be around your admin point, right? Your admin and maybe light creative things. So like email, managing a Facebook group, managing your comments, managing your DMs, stuff like that. Think of VAs as assistants who do your day-to-day task, right? And then when they specialize, they can get into project management, they can get into graphic design, they can get into website design, they can get into podcast, all that good stuff. But a VA is definitely like just a right-hand gal that you can kind of sort of throw things at that you need done on a day-to-day.
Yeah, I love all that definition of it. Yeah, a day-to-day task person. And the virtual part, like meaning too that they don't have to be local to where you live, which is really cool. It really widens like the hiring range of people to like pick from. We talked about this beforehand, but I think a lot of listeners don't have teams yet, but like are at the point where maybe making that first hire could be a really good move. So I guess a first question would be like, how does someone know that it could be good for them within their business to hire a VA?
So two things, and I'll use myself as an example because I do have two VAs of my own, and that's exactly how I got started. And so one advice is to make a list of all the things that need to get done that one, you never get around to doing, but they need to be done, right? So for example, in my business, back when I was like a travel blogger merging into being a VA, people knew me for my blogs, right? And so I was getting so busy with my client work that I could not write blogs anymore. And that's what my audience knew me as, right? And so I'm like, how could I make money with my clients, but also continue building my brand? I needed to blog, but I didn't have the capacity to blog. So that's when I knew I need to bring on a VA who can write my blogs for me. I can even give her the idea and she can just go and elaborate on it in a blog and post it for me. And so that's what I mean by making a list of the things that you need to do that either are too time consuming for you because you need to be going to get the business, or you just really don't enjoy anymore. And that's another thing. I liked that people enjoyed my blogs, but they didn't know. I didn't enjoy writing my blogs, right? But I knew they loved them. And so I knew that it was time to bring on someone because one, I wanted to move my brand forward that was going to be able to continue to give my audience what they need from me. And now I have my VAs do much more than blogging for me because, you end, once you realize that you have someone to help you, then you find so many, oh my gosh, can you do this? Oh my gosh, you can do that. Oh my gosh, you can do this too. And it's like, wow, you're taking so many things off my plate so I can stay in my quote unquote zone of genius. I can stay where I really enjoy being, and you can stay where you enjoy being. Because my VAs, they love creative writing. And so what was like a burden for me is now like, oh man, Saba, I can't wait for you to read this blog post that I wrote up for you. It's going to be so good. Like they're excited. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're excited because I am not. Like I was not excited to write those things, but that's how I knew that I needed someone to take it on for me.
Yeah. And that makes a lot of sense. So things that you never get around to or don't enjoy. And when I think about, so the first hire I ever made, this person is not working with me anymore, but the first hire was a virtual assistant, and I hired them to help with this podcast for writing blog posts to go with it. And it was like it needs to be done. It wasn't even that I don't want to do it. It was more of like, that's not the best use of my time.
Yeah.
And someone else could do it just as well as I can. And I love one thing you said there, that like you start seeing, like, as you hire more things the person can do, and then they can grow in that role. And so much stuff can be taught too. It's like we can sometimes feel like knowing something like Showed or WordPress or Squarespace, it's like, oh my gosh, like this is so intense, but it's like it can easily be taught to someone to be able to help with that stuff.
Yeah. And with all of my tasks and with any business owner, it doesn't matter. You would want your VA to come in with some basic knowledge of what you're asking of them. But I always encourage business owners and for virtual assistants to ask the business owner that when you are giving me a task, because just because I know how to edit a podcast doesn't mean that I edit a podcast the way that you want me to edit your podcast. So when I do come on your team, it's good to give me like a general walkthrough of, hey, this is how I would like it to be done for my brand. And then your VA can take it on from there. Because a lot of people get into this idea of like, she said she knows how to do this, but she's not doing it the way that I want it. And it's like, did you tell her how you wanted it to be? And so that I always encourage to ask for a walkthrough. A walkthrough doesn't hurt. And I mean, you can throw it into your SOP files for someone else who may come on the team and may take that over for you one day.
Interrupting this episode with a suggestion for the small business owners listening. Ever wonder what you should do for healthcare when you and your spouse are both self-employed, so there's no work-provided health insurance to participate in? Well, when my husband Adam joined me in the entrepreneurial job space over 4 years ago, we joined Christian Healthcare Ministries instead of getting traditional health insurance. And it was the best decision for us, especially in these years of growing and raising a family while also running multiple businesses. CHM is a health cost-sharing ministry and is a faith-based alternative to health insurance. We did tons of research before choosing CHM, and if you know me and Adam, you know we are all about doing the math when making big or small financial decisions. And even though it's not insurance, CHM shares 100% of eligible medical bills, which is more than the typical 70 or 80% of medical bills paid for by insurance companies. All sharing is determined by the CHM guidelines, which you can check out before and after joining. And for the mamas and mamas to be listening, you truly cannot find a better healthcare option for maternity care. I had a vaginal delivery and a C-section and birth center care and hospital care between my 2 pregnancies and births, and it was all 100% shared for. And outside of birth, we've had our share of emergency room visits and procedures as a family, and those costs were all shared by members at Christian Healthcare Ministries, leaving us only paying our monthly contribution. CHM is less expensive month to month than insurance, and because there's no network, you can choose your care with whichever providers best fit your family. I seriously just cannot recommend Christian Healthcare Ministries enough. You've got to check them out. Go to elizabethmccravey.com/CHM for more information. Also putting that link in the show notes, elizabethmccravey.com/CHM. Now back to the episode. Yeah, so okay, I love all that. I'm with you on the SOP files. So okay, for someone though, like let's say hypothetical situations that someone has hired a virtual assistant and they are in that boat or any type of person within their company and they're like, why isn't this person doing it the way I'm like mentally thinking? Like how long should they like be trying to like work with them to get it right, like or versus just like giving up on this person being the right fit, like what's kind of like the situation you would expect there?
So for me as a business owner, and I know that time is money and we don't have much time to waste. And so I honestly, like I said, having someone come on my team, this is why I believe in like trial periods and like interns. My VAs were interns for 4 weeks before I had her write 4 weeks of blog posts for me before I had her write her official blog, but we ended up using those. But before she was like on the team because I wanted to get a feel for the process, for the time. And so I honestly would give it about a month. Because if you're coming in with the basic knowledge and I'm not teaching you, from scratch, once I give you a walkthrough that you can follow, even if it's like a screen share, Loom video or something like that, there really should be no hiccups. After you do it like 2 times, right? The first time I correct you, the second time I correct you, the third time I'm going to be ready to pull back because I need someone that's going to be able to get it after I give you revisions once. And then that's about it. Because again, we don't have time as business owners to go back to the drawing board and go back to the drawing board. I need to be able to trust you to get it done.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great advice. I'm with you on like doing trial periods and that sort of thing.
And I teach
um
my students that they're like, well, so and so wants me to do a trial period with them. And I always hit them back with, my VAs did a trial period as well. And the reason why it has nothing to do with your value and what you bring, it's because I value my business and you're coming into something that you may not be familiar with. And so I want to make sure that you are as serious as I am in my business, and the only way I can know that is if I see what you can do for me, because you could have done it a million times for someone else. Will you do it the same for me? I don't know, which is why I need to do a trial.
yeah, yeah, that's a great point. Hey, with like your trials, how you said they were interns, like how like does that mean they were unpaid or paid lower? Like how did that like what did that look like?
I actually paid my VA
Okay, that's what I figured.
while she was doing it, but I know VAs who have done it without being paid. And I encourage my students to sort of go with what you feel, like if it's someone that I really want to work with, if it's an unpaid internship, I'm all for it, because I genuinely want to work with your brand, right? And it depends on how big the brand is too. Some people are very serious about bringing you on their team and they do not want to spend a dollar on you until they know that you're going to be on the team. And by all means, like it's really just, I don't take anything personal in the sense of like, oh my gosh, why don't they want to pay me as an intern? Is because, and maybe it's because I'm a business owner now. So I know what that side is, but I encourage VAs to not look at it on a personal standpoint because having a business, running a business is it's very serious and it's most of our babies, and you have to realize that this person, they just want to make sure that they're making the right investment. And as a business owner, whether you want to pay them or not, it's all up to you because I understand where the business owner is coming from.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great advice. I like getting that like clarity on what you were saying. Cause for me, what I've done is like for hires is definitely paid from the beginning, but like 90-day trial periods where every
Yeah.
30 days we're checking in and then like reevaluating pay at the end of it to see, okay, like, do we feel good about what that like starting number was and all of that sort of stuff. Yeah. I really like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so like for hiring a virtual assistant and we're like, okay, I want to do that. What would you say, first of all, are traits we should look for in someone we're hiring or skills? And then also like, where do we start to like even do the like hiring?
So trait wise, I love someone who is enthusiastic, and probably because that's how I am.
Yeah.
And so I always say that your ideal client, your ideal VA is really just another version of yourself, just like your ideal client, your ideal customer is another version of yourself. And so I was looking for in my VAs, and I can use myself as an example, I was looking for the same personality. Like I wanted someone that was outgoing, someone who loved to travel, someone who was open-minded, someone who was honest, like straightforward, because I am. So when I speak to them, they know that I'm not being, like that girl. That's just my personality. I am very straightforward. And I also wanted a lover of people. Like I wanted someone who was really just loved, like was really loved being around people, being around different kinds of people, and not very like selective, like this is all I like right here in this little ball. I wanted someone who was very outgoing, very adventurous, very confident in themselves. And so that's me. And so when I went looking for VAs, both of my VAs are literally another version of myself. And so that's why people have asked me like, can I hire your VA? And I'm like, no, no, you cannot. We're in a contract and you can't do that.
Yeah.
Because now it really feels like I'm more, and it sounds so narcissistic almost in a way, but it's like, I really feel like I'm working with myself because they do it so well. They really care for my business just as much as I do. And I like, honestly, like I was saying earlier, like when they write a blog post or when they write my, my weekly newsletters, they're like, man, Saba, I can't wait till you read this newsletter. It's so good. I'm so excited for that offer that you're launching next month. And it's like, wow, like my team is just as excited for what is bringing money into my pocket and my vision, because it really just advances us all in life. And I like that.
Okay, I like that. Okay, and I have a question for you with that, because you just gave an interesting perspective that's different actually than what I've heard many times as advice. So you're saying like someone who's more similar to us in personality, but I've also heard people say someone who's like polar opposite of you could be better. So to clarify too, I don't know like which one's best. I think it could vary, but for me, my main like right-hand person is the same Enneagram type as me. We are so similar. And it was like, I wasn't like trying to do that. It was just like, I was most drawn to her in the hiring process. But so I can relate to what you're saying of like, we just are super similar. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it varies too, because I have clients where I am the opposite of them. And I think because I am the opposite of them, I'm able to push them in a certain direction, depending on what it is. And it works that way. And then I have clients that are very similar to myself. But for me, when it came to hiring my team, I did not want someone that was too far off of what I am and what I believe and how I react and stuff like that, because I needed them to speak for me. Because they're going to be writing for me. And I needed it to be someone who already sort of act like me so that it would come off as if it was myself.
Yeah, and that's a really good point with like the communication side, especially. And for me, like the person, her name's Stacy, who does our like inbox and customer support. That was something I said, like, I want someone who's going to be like enthusiastic in emails, like correct grammar. There's like some stuff like that I'm like, that's my email style for like that type of thing. And she like does that really well of like representing the brand that same way that I would like to. Yeah, I really like that.
Great. Like it's great when people read like my newsletters. And once I finally came out and said that, hey guys, like that's not me writing. It's me giving my pointers, but it's not me actually formatting the newsletter. My VA does actually go in and like jazz it up and all that good stuff. They're like, what? That is not you? And I'm like, it is kind of me, but it's not all the way me, and they had no idea. And sometimes I read things that my VAs have written and I'm like, man, you got me down right. Like that, you are me. Like you sound like just like me. And I love that. So I think when you are looking to hire, you want to make sure that the person is compatible. I don't think that you should be looking for someone and like trying to like think of them as what you think they're going to be. It's who they are right now is what you need to be worried about. And then they will mold themselves into your business. And honestly, they normally get better as they fit into the business.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And like, yes, someone you're comfortable with that you could want to be friends with, even not that you want to like go too far in that relationship, because it is still like a business relationship, I guess. But like that idea. Okay. Yeah. Going back to like making a hire of a virtual assistant, like what steps would you say? I know there's a lot of different ways to go about it. Like we could find someone who on Instagram, who has their own virtual assistant business or like on a job posting, like I guess like do you think there's a better or worse way to do it? And like what would the steps be?
So I think there's a few ways that you can go about it. 3 ways. And they all are going to need your attention on the back end. So like, unless you have someone, like if you don't have a VA ever, like you don't have anyone to help you, it could be a lot depending on how big your business is. Because let's say you put out in your Instagram story, hey, I'm looking for someone, and I've gotten a client on the spot this way. I'm looking for someone to do X, Y, and Z. Here's my email me or DM me. Depending on how big your audience is, you may be flooded with DMs, flooded with emails. And so you have to be mentally prepared, like, oh my gosh, now I have to go through all these emails, and be able to figure out who my VA is going to be. Or what some people do is they put out an application, they create a Google form or some type of form where people can fill it out. And just based off glancing at the results of the form, you can see, okay, this person, these are some qualifications. If they don't mark these boxes off, then I'm tossing that. And then you can create a template and email them back, hey, I loved your application, but I decided to go with a different fit, blah, 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 blah. And so that's one way. I think the application process I stayed away from. I didn't do any of those. I stayed away from it because it gave me anxiety to think of, oh my gosh, so many people are going to contact me and I have to answer them all back. And I got to find one. And it was just a lot for me. So
I just didn't write it. I just don't write everyone back.
Yeah,
that was like my solution.
No, I just can't, I can't do it that way. And some people, which same thing, it's going to bring an influx depending on how active you are in Facebook groups. Facebook groups are a really good place to just make a post as long as they allow you to. You make a post in the Facebook group, hey, I'm looking for a virtual assistant who can do this, this, and this. And then you'll get an influx of virtual assistants that are responding or people tagging their favorite virtual assistants. That's how a lot of people have found me and have found my course, because they're like, hey, in so-and-so's Facebook group, someone was asking about a virtual assistant course and your name came up. So that's why I'm here, and stuff like that. So Facebook groups, depending on how active the groups are, is a great place to just, pop in a post, hey, this is what I need. And even if it's not a virtual assistant, hey, I'm looking for somebody who can make me a gender reveal cake in Nashville, like someone please help me,
Yeah.
and they'll respond. So I kind of like neither. And the reason why is because it's just the responding can be a lot. What I did was I sort of vetted my VAs. I knew they weren't VAs. They had no idea. I actually told them, hey, this is what I want to do. I really like what you are and what you do. And so I'm in this virtual assistant course. I think you should become a VA. Literally, this is exactly how it happened. I think you should become a VA. Okay, tell me a little bit about it. We talked about it, whatnot. They actually both decided to become VAs on their own. And then I told them, once you get through your course, I'm going to hire you on. And that's what I did. Both of them are hired on.
That's cool. Yeah, that's so
sort of,
different methods.
I knew based off of who they are that I'm like, I could work with you. I know I could mold you to become like my assistant.
Yeah. Yeah. So I like all those ideas a lot. And you're right. There are so many different ways to go about it. Facebook groups is a good one though. I'm with you on that you can find a lot of great people that for any kind of hiring really that way. For me, when I've hired, I've done job postings on like Craigslist actually, and had a lot of success with that. And don't respond to everyone is like kind of my method of like handling the like influx. Cause then you could put directions in it too that weed out people who like aren't going to do it the right way you're asking. And then it's like, okay, I'm not going to respond.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's really good advice. Cause I'm like, I would have loved to go on that route, but I could just thinking about it. I'm just like, oh my gosh, the emails that you get. And I'm like, I honestly don't even like answering emails now. Like, I don't want any more. I need help.
I agree with
that's why I'm asking for one of you, but I also don't want you all to email me.
That's so relatable because it's like I'm hiring for this because my inbox is too full. So like you don't want to make it worse
Yeah,
by
please,
like hiring.
please don't come in my inbox.
Yeah, no, I can relate to that. Okay, I love that. Okay, I have a couple other questions for you, some relating to travel actually. But before we get to those, like what other advice, like any other advice that you can like think of that you would tell someone in doing that first virtual assistant hire that we should talk about?
One is that you want to figure out what's a priority for you. And so a lot of business owners, me myself, we can be so busy that we think that everything needs to get done right now. And I struggle with that a lot. And so when you bring on someone, when you don't really know what priority, you kind of have them doing everything. And then the priority pops out at you, and you're like, oh my gosh, stop everything. We need to go back and do, and that is sort of like that creates friction right there. Like, oh my gosh, you don't know what you want. And so I believe if you have time, I didn't have time. I became so busy that I just had to hire on, right? But if you have time to really like start putting away a list of things that that's I kind of just I need to do these things, but I really don't enjoy it, or man, they're taking so much time. Just start creating a list now. And so when you are getting ready to hire, you can kind of weed out certain things, and you already have a list ready to go, like, hey, this is what I'm going to need. Let me know if this is the best fit for you, or if you're able to do these things. And these are the things that I need like right now, tomorrow, and then these are the things that I kind of need, in 3 months. And I think that's going to help you really narrow down on who you hire, because your tasks will be very specific. They'll be very specific to you, and your VA will know, hey, I kind of check off all these boxes, but this one, let me see if I'm a good fit, if not. But when you're just like, I need help, it's like, well, you're going to get a whole bunch of people who could help you. But if you can narrow down on, I need help on someone who's really good at writing podcast show notes, you're going to find that unicorn. It's going to be much less people to have to like answer to.
Yes, that's great advice. You're figuring out exactly what you need. I love that. Well, thank you for all those hiring tips. That's seriously so incredible. And okay, I feel like I always have guests where I'm like, I want to talk to them about like their main thing, but then I also feel like I have 1,000 other things I'd love to talk to you about. So one of them though is like traveling. So like you had already mentioned, like you've spent a lot of time traveling, which I think is so cool. That's like not my story at all. I'm like, did not travel growing up really, and not that much right now, but like I think the idea of traveling while working is like so awesome. So for listeners though who are like thinking long term, I know right now we're like traveling's different, but like who would like to be able to have really remote like work opportunities and make traveling work, like what like tips do you have for that, and like what did that like look like for you and look like going forward?
So being a traveler, it's always been great to just kind of get up and go. One thing I learned is that just because I travel from anywhere doesn't mean that I get to take everything with me. And so I had to really simplify my life in a sense of like the tools that I use and stuff like that to do work. So as a VA, I have my beautiful desk set up and I have all these things, but at home, normally I really only work with about a few things, because those are the things that I also can get up and go with. And so I had to sort of like adopt to that lifestyle at home, so that when I do need to leave and travel and work, it's not like a drastic, oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to like work because I'm missing something. So simplifying my setup has made just getting up and going so easy, because it's the same setup that I would use at home. That's super important. I've always been a very light packer too, as a travel gal. I am a one bag, one carry-on girl, sometimes one backpack girl.
Wow.
And so being able to simplify my work, my work and take it with me has also been able to just play into that. So I don't think I would be a comfortable traveler if I had to carry around like a work carry-on and then a leisure carry-on with all my clothes. Everything is in one bag. It doesn't matter if it's work or not. And so that's definitely one thing. Another thing is that you have to be really flexible. You have to be really flexible with work and travel being mixed now, because one, travel is always unpredictable, right? I've had to plug up in the airport and get a Zoom call and use my phone as a hotspot to power my laptop, because the internet in the airport wasn't working, and you have to just be flexible because that's where you are now. You wanted to work remote, and working remote comes with those kind of things. You can't just hook up to your home Wi-Fi when you're gone. And I think people glamorize this digital nomad lifestyle, and sometimes it's really not as pretty as it seems or as we make it seem online, because a lot of times you're in situations where you're like, oh man, I don't have good lighting, the connection is really bad. I've done a podcast interview where we had to do it like 3 times because my connection was bad because I was in Mexico. And I'm like, man, I don't want to miss out on this opportunity. But it's like, it also it gave me a memory. It gave me a memory, and it also taught me that, you know what? And I kid you not, the 3rd time we did that interview was better than the first time. And maybe that's just the way that it needed to be. And so now I just know that I sort of go with the flow. And that's my tagline, trust the flow, is we trust that things are moving in the direction that they're supposed to. And we just adapt as we go.
Those are great tips. That was a
Yeah.
lot of good tips packed in there. When you're a one bag person, how long are you staying places?
I can stay at as many places as I want with one bag. And the reason why is because I look at it on a weekly standpoint. So I pack in neutrals, and I pack only for 7 days. So even if I was going somewhere for 2 months, every 7 days, I'm going to do laundry again for the next 7 days and mix and match. And so that's how you're able to pack lighter and for less time, because you're really only packing for 7, although you may be going for 10, although you may be going for 24, it doesn't matter. You only pack for a week and then rinse and repeat.
Yeah, so I'm not a light packer, so I'm
No.
like, I can use those tips.
One big tip too, one big tip, and everyone's like, no, I can't do that, is there are no what ifs. All the what if outfits, all the what if shoes, you normally don't wear them. So we're like, oh my gosh, she may invite me out for wine. I need to bring this dress. She doesn't invite you out for wine. Right? You don't even go drink wine. And so all those what if outfits are just taking up space in your bag. So I normally like to literally plan, okay, on Monday we're going to do this, or at least have a ballpark idea of what's going on, and leave all the what ifs out. Because if a what if does pop up, whatever you have in your suitcase is what you're going to make work for that occasion.
I'm definitely a what if person with packing. So yeah, it's like, what if I need to go to like a nicer restaurant or need a swimsuit, even though I'm not going somewhere tropical?
Or like someone will go to like, I don't know, like the middle of Atlanta, Georgia, and they're like, what if I need a swimsuit? And it's like, it's January, it's cold. No one's inviting you to their jacuzzi. Like it's not, you have in your mind this scenario that just couldn't happen. And so even for those situations, it's like, it's not going to happen. Just take it out the bag.
Yeah. What's your favorite place you've traveled to?
Oh my gosh.
Recommend the most?
Everyone. And for a traveler, this is so hard. Everyone asks that question, and I'm like, I don't know. But one of my favorite places has to be Colombia, the country, because it reminds me of my home. I'm originally from Haiti, the island. And so when I go to Colombia, it's just something about the people and the culture and the food reminds me of being home. And so I could pick my home as my favorite place to be, although I love my home, but it's like having a home away from home is a whole nother feeling. And I really, really enjoy Colombia because of that.
I love that answer. So it's funny you say that, because I want to go there so bad, because my dad, when he was living, that was his favorite place to travel to. And he always I have like a bunch of his stuff now, like a hat that has the flag and things like that. So I'm like, oh, I would like to go there.
Yeah, I have roommates that are Colombian. And so I have little gifts from them. I've been to Colombia 3 times. I've been to Colombia 3 times. I just came back from Colombia in January. I went to go visit their grandmother. And one of the really big reasons why I love Colombia is because the first time I went, my roommates, I told them to send me off. And so I always knew their family. I spoke to their family over the phone as much as I could, And so when I went for the first time for 2 weeks, they sent me to their grandmother's home solo. So they were coming behind me on a later date, but I went ahead of time. So for 2 weeks, with my English and her Spanish and her not speaking English, we lived in the home, and it was as if I spoke her language and as if she spoke my language. And so
That's
that experience was like everything to me because it was like being with my mom and I knew what she meant. We used our hands. I used Google Translate. I did as the best as I could. And I still felt like we had a good time because when I was leaving, she started crying and I started crying. And she told them that she feels like her daughter is leaving her because she only has boys. And so that was like something that I'll never forget because I'm like, for you to be around someone for 2 weeks and you don't even speak their language and you still feel like you connected, that is amazing. And I think only travel can give you that.
That is so cool. I love that. That's like a very inspiring and cool story. I
Yeah.
love that. Well, I'm gonna have to like contact you more about travel stuff as I have more questions about that for personal
I have a ton
personal
of
stuff.
guides for you if you ever.
Yeah.
Hey, Saba, what do you recommend here? I've probably been there because your
Yeah.
girl has traveled quite a bit.
Yes, that's awesome. Okay, to close this out, I have a few little rapid fire-esque questions for you. First one, you have worked with an M-Shop template before, and we were talking about this a little bit before we started recording, but I would just love to hear what you'd say to someone who's considering a template, considering using Show It, all that kind of stuff.
So for someone who's considering creating a website, I am a huge advocate for not working from scratch. There is no reason in this day and age for us to work from scratch. There's no reason whatsoever. And so I love the fact that I could just buy a template and not only not have to put it together as in build the template, but I could just have it ready to go and pop my things in. And you could have a beautiful website in about a week, which is like even less than a week, which is mind blowing because the amount of money that you spend on a website and the amount of money that you spend for someone to like put together and do all the ideas for it to already be ready to go. Listen, I teach my students all the time that we do not reinvent the wheel. Whenever you can have someone help you out, then go for it. And so finding your template was came to me at the best time because I really needed something quick and I needed it to be done by myself because I'm very picky and I'm like, I kind of want help getting started, but I want to be the one to build it, be
Yeah.
the one to design it. Um, and the reason why I went towards Show It was because of what I heard about their blog. And so their blog being ran by WordPress. Um, and that's super important if you're really wanting to rank, because although you can rank with other website hosts, like Squarespace and stuff like that, I do think that it takes quite a bit. I think it takes longer. And so I really like that Show It was already partnering with WordPress on that standpoint. And it just made things a lot more easier to say yes. Because for someone who is really serious about building her brand, I want to rank. I want to rank. I want my blogs to be known around. And so the only way to do so is to be already in a platform that's going to support you in doing that. And that's what Show It does.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I mean, you're so right. Like WordPress is so like king of SEO. So it's
Yeah.
like it's such a cool like connection there that you get to use WordPress for blogging with Show It. Yeah. I love that. Okay, the next question I have for you, for someone who is a VA, like who's listening, because I know there are plenty of virtual assistants who listen to this podcast, who are like wanting just a quick tip for booking their next client. Like, what would your biggest, like, find your next client quick tip be?
Two things. One, the biggest tip is that you need to be showing up. So people cannot know you exist if they don't know you exist, right? And so a lot of VAs are like, I can't find a client. And I'm like, when was the last time you posted your face on your Instagram story? Oh, I'm not there yet. And it's like, well, that's the reason why your ideal client may not know you exist because they don't know you're out there because you're not showing up. And so the minute you start showing up and you start showing people what you're capable of doing, sort of like little clips of behind the scenes, allows people to get a feel for you. And then they want to know more. And so they reach out. That's like the golden rule. That it's almost common sense, but it's like, a lot of people think that they can go around it, but you cannot. Showing up is the best way to get in front of your ideal client. The second tip is that you really want to make sure that you are confident in your skills. So the reason why I was able to go into being the in-demand VA was because I made sure that I was packing on as much skills, as much knowledge as I can get. So when I do present myself to a client or a potential client or something like that, they're wowed every time. And without being conceited, it's like, man, Saba, you do a lot. And it's because on the back end, I'm constantly pouring into myself. I'm constantly educating myself, getting tips from someone else or learning from somewhere so that I can become the best VA. It's so easy for you to grab a client, for you to retain a client when you are just that good, right? When you make it hard for them to say no. And the only way you can do that is to really, really be touching up on your skills, because you have to keep up in this world. You have to keep up. And the only way to do so is to constantly be learning.
I love those tips. And yeah, something I want listeners to hear too, like you are someone, I don't think I didn't say this to you yet, but like I have so much confidence. And it's like inspiring though, because it can be hard to like show up confidently, but you show up, like you said, confident, not conceited. Like that's not how it comes off. So if people want someone to like follow who will inspire them to like grow in confidence, like you do such a good job with that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah. Okay. Best business book you've read.
The best business book ever, 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 ever. It's called Atomic Habits. And
I love that one.
read it twice this year. It is just, it's so mind blowing what we consider hard to do, hard to create into a habit when it really is not. And that Atomic Habit really does simplify that for you. And it allows you to really take a good look at your life. And you're like, wow, if I just do this, it will make way for this, and it'll be consistent. And it does. And so now I have a whole bunch of habits, good habits at that. And so he did a great job at writing that book. I'm just a really big book person. I've never been a huge TV person. I have a TV in my home, but I never turn it on because I'm really big on reading. And I think reading up on what others have to say about things is really important for your vocabulary and just for your downtime. The screen, the screen is great, but the screen is killing our eyes. And so I think that, stepping away and really getting into a book, fiction or nonfiction, doesn't matter, is great for us. So that book, I love that book so much.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm a big reader and I also love Atomic Habits. What's your favorite genre that's not like business or like self-improvement type of books to read?
Oh, favorite genre? Man, probably like mystery or something.
Me too. Okay. I kind of was wondering if maybe that would be what you'd say.
Yeah,
That's fun.
I'm always like, I'm going to figure this one out. I think it's the confidence too. I'm like, you're not going to fool me. I'm going to figure this one out. And so I really like being on the edge and like, oh, let me see if I can know what's next and be wrong every time. But I'm like, maybe the next time I'll be right.
Yeah.
Maybe the next time. So yeah, I really like mystery books.
I just finished 2 mystery books this week because I was just so like solving them, and I finished one last night and I did not solve it, but I did enjoy the process. So I love that. Okay. And then the last question I have for you that I want you to tell everyone where they can find you, but like a best software business type tool, just anything you're using that maybe people don't know about that's fun or helpful.
Wow, ClickUp. And the reason why I like ClickUp as a project management tool is because it's almost everything you ever need. I run my entire business through ClickUp. And so my team, my clients, my course, my soon to be membership, everything is through there, and my students. So the best thing about it is that it has automation. And so as a business owner, it's the best thing for us is to be able to be more hands off. And so ClickUp allowing you to sort of zap things into place right within their platform allows for you to receive tasks or send off tasks without you actually being at the screen. And so that has been a game changer. When a student in my course submits their homework through this form that I created in ClickUp, it automatically assigns it to me and gives me a due date to send them their feedback back without having to be there. And I love that. I love that.
I didn't know it did that with that way of automating. That's really cool.
Oh, it doesn't do everything, but it does quite a bit. And that's one of the ways. So we'll talk about it in a little bit again, but one way that I connect business owners to their new VAs that are trained by me is I created a form in ClickUp, and it's called your VA Connect, and you fill it out for me with little information of your name, your email, what are you looking for? And then it automatically sends, once you submit it, it sends it to my ClickUp, and it assigns it to one of my team members who pulls your information and posts it as a job posting in the Facebook group. When I don't even see most of them because they're coming in so quickly, but it's because it automatically goes to who it needs to go to within the team.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. I need to check out ClickUp more.
I love that.
Yeah. Okay. So this has been amazing. I've loved everything you shared. Tell everyone where they can find you, work with you. Tell them about the VA Connect, like all of it.
Okay. So on Instagram, I am the In-Demand VA. And right now we are gearing up for two things. We are on our second round of the In-Demand VA course. And so that's where we teach our VAs all the highly requested skills so that they can become in demand as well. And so our next round is going to be June 7th. That's going to be our third round, and you can join the wait list. It is in my bio on my Instagram. And we're also gearing up for a membership. It's called the Boss Lab membership. It's going to go live on May 3rd. And that's for people who are already established virtual assistants, social media managers, service providers. And that's where they're going to get more clear on the things that they want to accomplish when it comes to like income, creating content and stuff like that inside the membership. And so the course is for more so beginners, don't really have an idea, or maybe have an idea, but kind of want to explore more what a VA is. That's what the course is for. And the Boss Lab membership is for people that are already established or have already gone through a VA course. And then we have the VA Connect, and that is where business owners will be able to fill out what they're looking for. And I will be able to send VAs to you that have been trained by me, have gone through my program and only my program. And I know for sure that they're able to do all the tasks that you're asking of. And so that has been super, super lucrative. And in a sense of like for my VAs, we train them and then we bring jobs to them. And for business owners, it's great to like not really be working from a place of unknown. Like, I'm just going to put this out there and anyone is going to apply to my job posting, but more so, you know, that these VAs are coming from a really good program and that they're being vetted from someone who stands by what she teaches. And so that allows to like, it removes all the clutter. You know, you're going to get someone good. And it makes it easy. You just fill out an application and then we send them your way.
Yeah, that really does make it very easy. Yeah. Okay. I love all that. And we'll link to all that in the show notes. Saba, thank you for coming on. This seriously been so fun.
You are so welcome. Thank you for having me. It's funny because I'm like, I remember at the beginning of this year, you're crossing something off my vision board right now with this podcast, because I was putting my vision board together and I'm like, I really want to be on about 10 podcasts this year. And I'm on podcast number 4, this one, and you were one of them. You were one of them on the list. I already figured out.
You did not tell me that. That's awesome.
You know, you were one of them. And I'm like, man, isn't that crazy when you like put things down on paper or when you put it out there and then you just sort of like, you just keep doing the damn thing, you know, like you stay in your corner, you do your work and it comes to you. And I really, so like being on this podcast has been great because I love your business. I love what you teach. I love what you offer. I love your templates. And I just love that I was able to be a part of that on the podcast and with buying one of your products. And so, and being a woman, you know, being a woman-led business is just so heartwarming. So you have definitely crossed something off my bucket list.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing that. I love that. And that's so cool. And it's crazy that you say that because I had been planning to ask you to be on for a while. So it's like, maybe, I wonder if that was like the same timing even. I was just waiting until I had my next batching time, but that's really cool.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, thank you for being here.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you for listening to the podcast this week, friend. I appreciate you being here. And hey, if you enjoyed this episode, I want to tell you about something. I would encourage you to check out my website template shop. Over on elizabethmccravey.com, you'll find Show It website templates, and they are easy to use, strategically designed, and created to help you book more clients and customers. Maybe your current website is really boring. I don't know, maybe it is, and maybe you don't want to hurt its feelings, but you know it's true. And your website needs to be strategically and intentionally designed in order for it to convert your viewers into raving customers. And that's what these website templates do on MShop. These are pre-made website templates built for the Show It platform where you can plug and play your content into the template with ease and then get started with a website that is made to actually make you money. Isn't that what we all want, right? So go shop the templates at elizabethmccravey.com/shop. That link is also in the show notes. And don't forget that you can actually subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening so that you never miss an episode. And I would so appreciate it if you left a rating and review for the show on Apple Podcasts, or even just share it with a friend. It's a great way to support the show and then give us your feedback. So thanks so much for listening.